We are live and we are on Yonkers Voice with former mayor and possibly future mayor of the City of Mt Vernon, Mr. Wallace.
Yes.
Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for sitting down with us.
Thank you for having me,
It's coming down again.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So in a few weeks, 3 weeks,
Yeah.
we're going to have another election primary.
Yeah.
So what is your view on what's happening, the possibilities of you being re-elected, your plans, anything you'd like to tell us?
Well, Mount Vernon definitely needs a change, okay? And it needs to be pointed in the right direction. Many people are running around saying, oh, we need continuity, we need this. But if we needed continuity, and continuity was so important, why didn't we keep Trump in office? Why didn't we keep Mayor Thomas in office? Why didn't we keep Clinton Young in office? There's so many things that we could talk about it. Continuity is not always the best thing, especially when it's bad continuity. If you know that you're heading down the wrong path, you need to make that change. You know, you don't keep going along with it to see if it's going to change. You make those changes. In corporate America, okay, if a company and the stocks are going down, we change the CEO automatically. We don't wait for the stock and the company to tank until we make those changes. Mount Vernon is a city. Mount Vernon is a corporation. You need to look at it as that. And it's on its way down. You know, the taxes is going up. Our property values are going down. Crime is running rampant through our cities. Right now, this is the only city around where the cost of living is going up, but the chance of living is going down. So this is something that we need to change, and we can't keep going in this direction because it's unsustainable. We need to make these changes before all our investments in this city of Mount Vernon, when you buy a home or you buy a property or you open up a business, before it tanks. So we have to turn it around. We have to put it in the right direction so that everybody in Mount Vernon can be prosperous. You know, and that is what I can bring to the table to make sure that we move in the right direction.
Now, Mayor, before we go much further and we dive into this, I want to let you know, and I want to apologize if you see me here pressing the key buttons. It's not because I'm ignoring you, but you know, today's technology, it's one crew man. It's one man does it all. So I'm monitoring to see if there is questions. I'm talking to you, so I'm multitasking here.
Got it.
So I don't want you to think, oh,
No.
he's talking to me, he's looking down. So we got this, okay?
Listen, one man show, I understand it. Sometimes there's plenty of people that have to be that way, you know, to make it work.
And you've been on Yonkers Voice multiple times. You know what it is. You know?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Mayor, you're going to be running.
Yeah.
The current mayor is running for re-election. What is the root difference between you and her, and the other candidates, if you like to address that?
Well, the difference between myself and the current mayor is, one, I say what I mean and I mean what I say. And when I say something, I get the job done. I always run around and tell people, don't listen to what people say, watch what they do. Because yes, the difference between her and I, she's a great orator. She can speak well and all, and she can tell you that. And if I had a car dealership, I would definitely have her working there. The only problem I would have is after they sold the car, when people came back and found out that they don't get 100 miles to that gallon. But you have to have integrity, you have to have honesty. I think that's what separates the two of us. You know, what I say usually comes to fruition. And what she say, you know, is just to look good or to get, you know, her point across or to get elected. You know, for 3.5 years, she's done nothing. Now in 3.5 weeks before the election, she wants to do everything. That kind of tells you a lot between us. Where were you for the other 3.5 years? Missing in action. Only thing I could remember is that you were raising our taxes, and our cost of living is going up, and our quality of life is going down.
Mayor, before we go into that, let's address a couple of things, because look, I have to disagree with you here. You know, saying that she hasn't done nothing. Come on, I think it's a stretch. Memorial Field open up.
Yes, but she had nothing to do with Memorial
What
Field.
do you mean? What do you mean?
Because let me say this, because I'm going to explain it to the people because she was not there. So she doesn't understand how Memorial Field came about. And if I'm going to credit anybody outside of the prior council that I sat on with the work that we did, it would be Lyndon Williams, who had came to us and said, because of the field can't get done, that the county can build it for us. He went back to Lattimore and they pushed to get this thing done. The problem we had meetings after meetings, and a lot of people didn't know this. After Thomas' debacle of chopping down the tennis center, I sued Thomas with a TRO, which is a temporary restraining order to take control of the field. Okay, when I did it, the council wasn't behind me. I paid for that myself out of my pocket for the lawyers and everybody, just so that we can make sure that Mount Vernon is on the right track. And I didn't want to waste people's money, especially when the council wasn't behind me on this. We then went to meetings up in the county, week after week, for about a year. And sitting at the table so people know who was there, it was myself, our attorneys, Jeffrey Buss, Richard Thomas sat there from time to time. He would come in because he was the mayor at that time as the meetings was going on. Judge Lohr, Lyndon Williams, Mondaire, who was the congressman at the time. He was a lawyer working with John Noonan. Sometimes I think, if I could remember, also Ken Jenkins monitored as well. So we always had meetings in the judges' chambers every 2 weeks for the progress. As we did that, the county's stipulation was they will not touch the field. After we negotiated everything, I signed the IMA, right? And after we negotiated and got it to that point, they would not touch the field until the field was cleaned up, because we had fines by DEC, EPA, everybody's fining us, and the field had the dumping in the field. We were then blessed because the mayor was removed and I had the opportunity to sit in that seat. When I sat in that seat, I immediately looked at all the things that need to be done to get them done. And that was one of them on the main, on my main agenda. So what I did was I took control of that. I had more meetings with the county, and they said, well, you need to come up with $3 million from somewhere to get this field done, because we knew what the cost was going to be around. After that, we did a bid for the cleanup of Memorial Field, and Memorial Field, the bid came in at the lowest bid, was $3.7 million. Okay, we were able to negotiate it down because my background's in construction, and I was able to do it with at that time Mark Ederer, who was the commissioner. We sat in a room for hours, for a few days, and we crunched those numbers down, and we got it to $2.4 million, saving the city $1.3 million on how we were going to clean it up. I then remember that Deborah Reynolds at the time, and even before Deborah Reynolds, okay, Maureen Walker was there, and she can testify to it as well. There was money being held by the water department that the Thomas administration wouldn't turn over. It was at that time when Maureen was there, it was about $2 million. I still have the letters of her asking to get this money and coming and pleading to the council to help her get the money to close out the books. And I remember Thomas saying he's holding that money for Memorial Field and other things he was doing. But when I was mayor, I was able to sit down with the people in the water department, find out how much money that was available and how much money was supposed to be turned over. Deborah Reynolds came up with the number of about $3 million, $4 million, $5 million. It was just kept coming up because it was year after year that we never collected the money, and it was never turned over to the city of Mt Vernon. So it was the city's of Mt Vernon's money. At that point, I made sure we took $3 million flat. There was about $5-point-something million available, but I didn't want to leave the water department dry. So what we did was we took the $3 million. I had them transfer the $3 million into an escrow account in Deborah's office, okay, in the controller's office, to pay the bills. when we clean up the field. So we cleaned up the field. I was also able to negotiate and make sure that we removed the DEC fines, which was about $600,000, saving the city a ton of money. And then we knocked out all the other fines and didn't have to pay anything for those by negotiating with our attorneys against, the DEC. So they backed off. We then cleaned up the field, got the field done, and I was there. I was doing the progress and working on the progress reports every single day, because when you bring in dirt or take dirt out, you have to have manifests of where it's going and how it's coming in, and that was so important for me to follow, along with to make sure that the contractors, which I had all the faith in, okay, but I still wanted to see and make sure it was on point and things were going the right way. We took out 1,100 dump trucks of dirt, contaminated dirt, and shipped it off to Pennsylvania. Once we did that, we went through cleaning up the rest of the field, making sure that it was mitigated properly and all contaminants was gone. And at that point, I remember, because you were there, I held a press conference, okay? And that was the beginning of Memorial Field being done, because I turned the key of Memorial Field over to the county so that the county can now build it. And we had that dialogue and that conversation, and it was all cleaned up, remediated, and done. So now the county was able to build it. After the county went in to build it, okay, they found that they needed more money. That's where you had people like Tyree Woodson, and we got a lot of help from David Tuviello, which is our county legislators, to push in to help create more funding for Memorial Field to get built. But one thing people don't realize, okay, that when we have dysfunction, it costs a lot of money. Because the same field that we're building today for $40 million, when Clinton Young was there back in 2008, 2009, was costing us $13.1 million. So we just paid close to an additional $30 million for incompetence. And this is what I tell people: incompetence costs money, and it is very expensive. So we need to make sure whoever is leading our city understands how it runs.
And it costs taxpayers' money. It's not like it's money that don't belong to the people of Mt Vernon.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, everyone in Mt Vernon is going to pay for that invoice.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the field is now finally open. I was there. I saw the mayor's mailer that she mailed out, because I got one in the mail. And I noticed that my picture on the side is cut off. They cut it right there, so she mailed it out. And I understand, so it looks like I wasn't there. But yes, I was sitting right there with everybody else as we opened up Memorial Field. And I'm still a little disappointed now, because it's only open for walking in the morning, early mornings, and in the evening. It needs to be open all the time. You need to manage it properly. You need to run it properly. This is a field that belongs to the people of Mt Vernon. That's what I fought for. I didn't fight for the Iron Steel rugby team to take over Mt Vernon. That's not what it was about. I fought for the people of Mt Vernon to make sure that the people of Mt Vernon enjoy the field that we enjoyed all this time prior.
Are you saying there's a broken promise somewhere there?
Not broken promise. It's not broken promises on her side. It's just mismanagement and lack of understanding and the ability to run a city or run a field. I always say, if you can't even run a small little animal shelter, how can you run a city?
We are going to get to the animal shelter. Just to conclude this segment,
yes,
of the field, Memorial Field, I was there, you were there, and many other people were there the day that it was open.
Yes.
The current mayor spoke about records that she broke in that field. Do you remember that?
I remember.
Were you there? You were there that day, but you remember those records being broken?
Listen, the only thing the mayor has broken was the city, okay? When you go to the records that she said that she ran track, and it's on video, so I'm waiting for her to say that she didn't say that, because we have it on video. Because the whole thing was videotaped. Yes, and she said that she was on the field and she broke track records running around that field. She has never broken any track records. That's not even something you should be disingenuous about. And most of us who know about track know who held the record. Actually, Clinton Young had a track record before it was broken by Ann Derman, who was a track star who ran it. And her record stood for so long until Brenda Crump's daughter, Miss Crump's daughter, broke the record, who still has the track record today. And the record wasn't, the track meets wasn't at Memorial Field. That is so funny about it because it was a dirt track. It wasn't even a real track. So, you know, the mayor is good with glorifying herself in these lights, but if that's what it is, that's what it is. You know, when you want to sit back and say these things and glorify yourselves and continue to be disingenuous about, you know, your accomplishments and the things that you've done, you know, you can fool some of the people, but you're not going to continue to fool everybody. It's not going to happen. And you know the saying, but I'm not even going to go into that. I just laugh.
Now, let's talk about the real state of the city right now.
Mm-hmm.
Financially, is the city solid?
No, the city's not solid. The city's in a much worse condition than it was 4 years ago. Even though the city, you know, and the prior administration raised our taxes an exorbitant amount of money, you know, by giving us these sewer fees, garbage fees, sustainability fees, all of these fees which I'm going to be reversing anyway, because there's better ways to do it, you know, and I will explain that later as we go on through the campaign. But those taxes are a burden on the people. And the thing about it is, if you look at the numbers, the amount of taxes that she raised and the money that she gets from the garbage fees and all of this stuff only goes into paying for the additional friends and family that she hired. So it doesn't make sense. You increase all the taxes, okay? You're supposed to lower expenses. You don't increase expenses to go with it because you're going nowhere with that.
Are you implying nepotism?
Oh, nepotism, yes, of course there's nepotism to the fullest. You know, when you're seeing the government that is here now that doesn't work, okay, you have plenty of people in jobs that are doing nothing. And then you have all of the people that are friends and her political people who she's hired to campaign for her. So she's giving them jobs with the city, but they're really campaigning and working for her side. You know, they're not really benefiting the people. You know, and that's the big issue. When we look at how much she's increased our taxes year after year, I just got another bill in the mail that my escrow is short again, $1,700. Okay, well it's not 17. To be exact, it's $1,689 and some change. But every year, my escrow is short. And I'm getting a bill that I need to pay this by July 1st. So it's a problem. And not only that, as our taxes is going up, like I said, our property values decrease. So it is a big problem that we have to solve. And that's why I'm running. I'm running for you know, I'm running not to go to get a job. I'm going to do a job. I'm not there like the current mayor, who decided also with these tax things to raise our taxes so she could give herself a raise. This is the second time. She wanted to give herself a raise, okay, the first day walking into the door into the job before you could show us what you could do, okay? And I would say by the way I look at the city and how it's been run, she doesn't need a raise, she needs a decrease in salary.
Mm-hmm. I speak with tons of people here in Mt Vernon, in Yonkers, especially in Lower Westchester. Not everyone understands the complexity of budgets, financials, percentage. There is a very small amount of people that understand those. Maybe people like you and other investors, people that have done well in life and understand finances, They do understand that. But the majority of the people in Yonkers, Mount Vernon, small cities, what they really understand is quality of life. Okay, they understand crime.
Right.
They understand garbage.
Yeah.
They understand police relations between police and community. Are they happy with it? They understand traffic situations.
Potholes. Terrible streets. Dirty
Homeless.
sidewalks.
They understand those things.
Yeah.
Okay? And I'm sure that you also understand those things.
Absolutely.
So if you are talking to somebody on the street and that person tells you, listen, Mayor, you understand school funding, you understand all these complexities of financial issues. I don't. But I understand that they're not picking up the garbage in my street. I understand there's a whole bunch of potholes every place I go, damaging the car that I had to sacrifice to buy.
Right,
Okay.
correct.
So what would you tell those guys? What are your plans?
Well, for all of those that see all of those things, I see it too because I suffer from the same thing. Okay, they're not the only one that has gotten a flat tire or even broken their rim driving around Mount Vernon.
The difference is you can fix your car and the guy who lives in a certain area cannot. So it might be more of a burden on them. So we need those streets fixed.
Absolutely. And, you know, and my heart goes out to all of those people because this is a big issue. And when I speak about changing the city around so that it works for everyone, I mean that, not for just a few, okay? I could absorb some of these taxes because I do well in my business, okay? But not everybody else can. Grandma can't because when you raise the taxes, they're on Social Security, they're on fixed income. They don't get an opportunity, okay, to pay these bills because what happens is the cost of living is increasing, but their quality of life decreases because the money that they had before that is not changing as the price and cost keeps going up, okay, that money and that value starts to decrease. That's what we have to understand. So it becomes a real hardship on the people of Mount Vernon. And that we need to turn around. We need to make sure that we give them relief. We need to show that we care. We need to give them the services that they need because we're not getting the services for what we pay for. Mount Vernon is the highest tax city in America. And people need to know that because Westchester is the highest per capita in the United States. And, okay, Mount Vernon is the highest per capita in Westchester. And we get nothing for our money. It should not look like this. It should not be like this. You know, and I tell people just because it is doesn't mean it should be. And just because it is looking that way, it doesn't need to be. We can change that. We can make sure that it's done properly. We need to bring curb appeal to our city. We need to make sure that our city looks the way it's supposed to for the value and the money that people pay in taxes and things like that. And we also need to make sure that people are getting the services that they deserve, and they're not getting that for the amount of money that they pay.
I'm looking here at your palm card, and it has a quote from you, let's increase public safety and reduce our taxes. And that ties up with what we are just talking. Because look, while I'm a productive member of my city, and I have a job, and the taxes go 1%, a 0.5%, I can pay. But when I reach a certain age, the age that we just spoke about of the fixed income, it becomes a serious problem.
Yeah. Very serious problem.
So the formula is, sir, to reduce our taxes.
Absolutely.
What is the formula?
Well, the thing that people need to understand is you don't always have to raise taxes. There are many ways by enticing business to come here, and you open up these businesses. There's a lot of companies that want to do business with Mount Vernon. However, we need to first get a working, building department that works for the people and works for the people who's interested in coming in here. Right now, people are trying to open up businesses in Mount Vernon, and they're shutting down before they can even get a building permit. That is a big problem. That's one thing. Our building department's supposed to be making money for our city, and it's supposed to help those people coming in here to invest, to open up their businesses and get those things running. Because why? Businesses pay a higher utilization tax than the homeowner. Businesses hire people, okay, in our community to go to work. You know, businesses also contribute sales tax to our economy, and make sure that all of these things add up together. And this is revenue that we need to be tapping into. You know, the problem we have is Mount Vernon, 88% of the taxes is paid by the homeowner. 12% is by business. The reason why people always tell me that New York City, they say, I live in New York City and I have a big, gigantic house and all, and I only pay $4,000 in taxes. If you go to Mundy Lane, you can see some people on one side of the street in Mount Vernon pay $16,000 in taxes, and across the street is the Bronx, okay? And they're paying $4,000 in taxes. The difference is the city of New York is in the opposite direction, okay? The city the city of New York, most of their taxes is brought in by businesses and corporations and Wall Street and all of those things. That is how you do it, you know? You don't do it in reverse. We need to change that trend so that our city lines up with that kind of thing, where businesses and our industry is paying for more of the taxes than the homeowners, so that the homeowners can get a break. Because right now they're drowning. Everyone's drowning, and it's a problem. And we're going to see people losing their homes because the cost has gone up too much. And this is on top of the regular cost that has been running rapid in the United States. The cost of everything. Try buying a carton of eggs. It's not $1.99 anymore. All of these things factor in.
Those are the good old times.
Oh, that's right. Listen, I don't understand myself still what Con Ed is doing. All I know is I'm paying an outrageous amount of money for electricity that is different than what I was paying before. So you have to look at all of those things and amplify those on top of what people are paying with these taxes.
Mayor, just before we go, because I want to go into the bringing in investors to Mount Vernon.
Yes.
But before we go to that segment, I want to close this one, because I feel, and for what I hear, for what I talk to people, this is a problem to the people of Mount Vernon, and to many other places. Social justice or social injustice.
Yes.
Okay? Police relationships with the community, it's important.
Very.
Police officers, police departments, they need to be held accountable. Many police departments, not just in Mount Vernon, okay, but in many other places, and I can testify to one instance that I had with the police officer here in Mount Vernon. They seriously need sensitivity training. They need to speak, to learn how to speak with the community. We all understand that it's a tough job.
Oh, yeah.
We all understand that the stress of a job, it's just unbelievable. But that does not justify how certain police officers address community members.
Right. Absolutely.
How would you address this? How would you resolve the problem to teach, train, retrain police officers to how to deal with the community?
Well, right now, let me just say this too. I am pro-police. I agree with the police. I like the police. We need the police. I am not for bad police, okay? But I am for police, because no one is going to move into a community unless they feel safe, okay? We are not always going to police our way out of all the situations, so we need education for our constituents, as well as the police training and sensitivity. That needs to be brought forward. That needs to be instilled and put into the programming, you know, that we have for policing. Right now, the problem we have in Mount Vernon is that we have a big badge drain. Our police are leaving. We've lost over 100 police officers that have left under this administration. It's the worst in any case in anywhere in the United States. The police are underpaid. They're overworked. And I believe some of the, I would say, insensitivity comes from, you know, the stress that they are under right now. You know, they are working tireless. We don't have enough manpower. And then, you know, you have them on these rotating shifts, which is not good because, you know, they're not getting time to spend with their family. They're not getting a whole lot of different things that they should be. Mentally, okay, that takes a strain and a toll on anybody. You know, you can run into them having a bad day, okay, because of the stress, the lack of sleep, the lack of all of these things. And I'm not saying or standing up for them as far as bad cops, because some of them are just bad. And no matter where you go in America, you are going to have a great police force, but there's going to be a few bad apples, okay? Those bad apples you'll have to address and make sure that we rein them in, okay? You know, you saw it with George Floyd. You saw it with plenty of people around the country. There are bad cops. But you cannot throw the whole basket out because you got a few bad apples. We have to learn to weed them out and to make sure that the good cops are able to be out there to do the job that they want, they need to do.
But you know, Mayor, I don't think anyone has ever said that two bad cops is a reflection of the entire police department. What we criticize is when those bad cops are identified, not much is done about it.
Well,
not in every instance,
Yeah. Well, people have known that I reprimand, when I was in office, I reprimanded police. And they know that. I fired police, I reprimanded police, I suspended police, you know, right away. I don't play that kind of game. I've also worked when I was in council, you know, to bring the CCRB, you know, which is the Community Control, you know, Review Board, to make sure that cops are held accountable. That, when I get back, is something that I want to make sure that we have, because when cops run into people and they have whatever it may be, an incident or something, you know, the public is afraid to go to the police station and be able to report that. We have to give them outlets where they can report, that we can investigate, and we can check out that person, because we don't want a bad cop running around our city doing this, you know, over and over and over, you know, because it escalates, you know. It might be a small incident now, and tomorrow it might be a big incident that will make sure that the city has to pay for it. So I take that very serious, because the first thing I look at is protecting the public. The second thing I looked at is protecting public finances, because a bad cop doing the wrong thing can cost taxpayers a lot of money. So we have to make sure that we focus on that and rein in on that, and make sure that the people that put their trust into the police, okay, are getting the service that they deserve.
Now, Mayor, now I'm going to tie up something that we just spoke about it before on a prior segment, but I want to bring it up again, is the City of Mt Vernon tries to have programs to bring new investors into the City of Mt Vernon, create new jobs and all that stuff. What is your plan for those small businesses in Mt Vernon to remain in Mt Vernon and not be forced to shut down because they cannot sustain the rents and other issues?
Well, we will, under my administration, I will do what I was setting up before, making sure that we have an outlet and an office, okay, and people that man it just for business, just so that the businesses can come to, you know, City Hall, have somebody to talk to, tell us what their issues are. If they're not getting a permit in time to open up, how do we expedite that right away? Because these are things that we have to do. People's families, jobs, and all of that stuff depend on getting these things done. So I'm going to have that, and not only with the constituent services, you know, that was something I spoke about 4 years ago when I ran, and the mayor spoke about it also. And constituent services that she has doesn't seem to work for anyone, because they're not about constituents. The people that they have in there is more about campaigning for the mayor. So nobody is getting anything done. And most people come to me and ask me still today, even though I'm not in office, to help solve these problems and mitigate some of the problems that they're going through. But I've seen it time and time again. And I know plenty of businesses that are on the sideline that are not coming to Mt Vernon because of this mayor and this current administration. So we need to pull them back in. I see when we had Starbucks coming before into Mount Vernon. Okay, it was ready to open. We were ready to move forward. The mayor stopped it. Okay, now all of a sudden she's running around talking about we need a Starbucks. Why are you destroying the things that I left out for you? A blueprint of success that you threw in the garbage. What it reminds me of is the same thing that Trump did with Obama's blueprint, just throw it in the garbage. But things need to focus on how do we help the businesses, what do they need to come in, and then using the IDA that's shut down now, that they're still trying to open up because it's been so badly misused, to make sure that the IDA helps these businesses, to partner with them to open up their businesses. Because the IDA, I always tell people, stands for Industrial Development Agency, not Residential Development Agency. Okay, so it's industrial. And we really do have to focus on that and just making sure that businesses come here, businesses get what they need so they can hire the people in our community so that we can put them into work and people can take care of their families. Because everybody deserves to be able to work and be able to afford to take care of their families.
Mayor, every time we sit down and we have an interview, the time flies.
Yeah.
Okay, it's almost an hour.
Wow.
We are almost done. I'm sure that you're familiar with the 1 million plus or $1 million that the city of Mount Vernon received and was just announced last week to fix the animal shelter, rebuild, fix. I don't know exactly what the plans are. I was there when the shelter was closed. I was there when people were bringing the animals and they were being turned away because they were not taking no more animals. Oh, you were there? That's correct. We were both there. The mayor said that she had to close because the condition of the shelter was not good. She blamed the prior administration, even though she did not specify by name, but was an S at the end of administrations, so it means it's a few. Mm-hmm. And on the announcement last week, she rephrased that again, and she blamed prior administrations. You are part of that administration. You were in the past administrations. Do you accept any blame for that, or you exclude yourself from that pool?
Not only do I exclude myself, the mayor is very good with being disingenuous. Once again, the reports have shown that all of the deterioration of the animal shelter was all under her administration. You can't blame anybody back then. You can look at the state reports. The state reports reflect that the animal shelter was overlooked by this administration, and time again they did nothing to fix it. When I was there for my short time, I was the one who put the hot water heater into the animal shelter because they didn't have hot water. And I was in the process of working on it. Not only that, I donated my own money, okay, again, to help buy the food and to get things going with the animal shelter. So after I left there and she took over, it quickly went into disrepair. She's done nothing for it. She was against the animal shelter. She got rid of the animal shelter and sourced it out to New Rochelle Humane Society because she didn't want to be bothered with it. Just like she did with the firehouse, just like she did with the armory. You know, when you can't get things done, you shy away from it. Okay. Now let's look at it this way. I remember them talking to her and saying that we can get grant money and all of that to fix the animal shelter. And she said, even if this is her own words, she got $20 million, she would not be opening that animal shelter anyway. Now, let's fast forward. 3 weeks before the election, okay, the assemblyman seems to find $1 million. And now you see her in front of the animal shelter with this wonderful speech with everybody holding little puppies that don't belong to them, okay, and doing a press conference. You know, this is the disingenuous behavior. And what I want to express, when she says prior administrations, what we have to really think about, okay, and remember, Mayor Sean Patterson was Mayor Thomas's chief of staff. She was part of that administration. She was part of the administration, so every time she goes back and blames the Thomas administration, you have to understand that you, not meaning you, but Mayor Patterson, you was his chief of staff. You were part of it. You were part of the problem, not the solution. Now all of a sudden you want to turn around 3 weeks before the election and say, hey, we got $1 million and we're all for the animal shelter.
Are you saying this is political motivated? Is that what
It's
I'm
more
hearing?
than political motivated. This is another stunt to get elected. Like I said before, for 3 years, 3.5 years, she's done nothing. And now for 3.5 weeks, she has planned to fix the whole city, okay? And, you know, you can go back and say all these things about you had COVID, you had this, and COVID struck us and all that stuff. That's excuses. That didn't stop New Rochelle. Look at them. That didn't stop Yonkers. Look at them. That didn't stop White Plains. They're knocking nothing. It stopped nobody but Mount Vernon. Let me tell you, the success of and I always tell people this too, the success of the revitalization of a community and what's going on in that community is by how it's easily identified is by the amount of cranes that you see up in the air. If you look at New Rochelle, there are cranes up in the air. If you see Yonkers, there are cranes up in the air. If you look at White Plains, there are cranes up in the air. You look at New York City, there are cranes up in the air. You look at Mount Vernon, there's just smog. That is the difference. That means nothing is going on. There is no building, nothing happening properly in Mount Vernon.
Mount Vernon Hospital. A few years ago, it was almost closing. I remember rallies, protesting, demanding.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, the closure stopped.
Yeah.
People are taking credit for that.
Oh, it stopped the rallies and all of that stuff because the mayor was elected. You know, nothing happens, but I'm sure it'll start again. We have three more weeks until the election. I'm sure she'll bring that out and start talking about it again.
Why didn't the hospital close?
You know, in a sense, the city was unlucky, the world was unlucky, but yet Mount Vernon was lucky within that. Sometimes you could look at things and you can find, you know, in the middle of chaos, you can always find something good out of it. Mount Vernon, that hospital would have closed, okay, if we didn't have that pandemic, because they were already planning on that. And don't let the mayor fool you with the marching and all of the stuff that she was for it. She was for the hospital being moved over to Sanford Boulevard. I remember seeing her in the Bronx with Montefiore people talking about it and all. I was there. I saw it, you know? And I was able to see things that people haven't seen, okay? If she was so interested in saving the hospital, she wouldn't have blocked the $160 million I was bringing to the hospital in a deal to work it over and take over the hospital to make sure that we have a viable hospital that is second to none. That is what I was working on, but she blocked the deal. And you know, there are people, I like to say it this way because I don't want everybody to look at me and then she'll say, oh, he's lying and not telling the truth. Okay, well, Gary Pretlow was on that Zoom call with the people, okay? Pastor Poe was on that Zoom call with the people. Senator, then working for the governor now, Ruth Hassel Thompson was on the call with the people, okay? And Lisa Copeland and many others was on that call and Zoom call. They know what the team was to take it over. So you can't tell me that it's not true because I have the video, I have the paperwork, I have the letters to the governor, I have everything. So when you are ready to challenge me on that, anyone, I will produce it and I will show you that she turned around and she made the deal stop because it was for political reasons, because it was me that was bringing the team to take over the hospital. I had people as far as the United Emirates, who one of my friends is running brought over there to run 13 hospitals to turn their system around, was willing to come here along with other folks from Maryland, from Atlanta, and California. okay? And they were coming because they believed in my vision of the city, they believed in my vision of the hospital, they have done it before, and they wanted to do this for the people of Mount Vernon. The mayor blocked it because of political reasons. So now we have a hospital that is understaffed, not able to do anything. And just like, I mentioned this to everybody, and I'll mention it on camera, okay? The young lady who got killed on Gramerton Avenue over here during the parade, Kayla, I blame that on the mayor. And the reason I blame it on the mayor and them is because you could have had a functional hospital. Instead, we had to go in the back of a car and drive her down to the Bronx for service. You know, when she was less than 1 block away from a hospital. You know, how many people do we have to die over this thing? How many people have to suffer because of your political gains? That's not how we do business. You see, you have to take out the politics. It has to be people before politics. And when I refer to her, I say politricks, because that's what it is, tricking the people into believing something else when it's not. And you always, going back to the beginning, you say what separates me and her is that, you know, the authenticity of the words that I speak to the actions that I do compared to the false information that she gives to cover up the fact that she is not a leader, she is inexperienced, and she cannot do this job.
Well, Mayor, we are about to conclude, but before we do, I have to ask about the infrastructure in the city of Mt Vernon. There has been a lot of talks about infrastructure. Some people are taking credit for things that they shouldn't be taking credit. I want to talk about the infrastructure here. Bridges, traffic lights in the city of Mt Vernon. Mm-hmm. Would you like to address that, sir?
Listen, I know I have a statement I've seen from the mayor. I still keep it on the side because I'm waiting for her to claim the bridges, because she said one of her biggest accomplishments was getting these bridges done that she had nothing to do with. Again, I credit Mayor Thomas, former Mayor Thomas, for the 14th Avenue Bridge. He did that. I remember him going down to the MTA and having that conversation to get it done. I will not take credit for something I didn't do, and I applaud him for getting it done, you know? And I believe that when people do things, they should be acknowledged for the things that they've done. Right or wrong, I'm not going to say, there's a lot of things he did that has cost the city millions and millions of dollars. But there are also a couple of things that he did that's right, you know? So you can't say that everything he did was wrong. He's done what's wrong. But the rest of the bridges, I sat down with MTA, I negotiated all of those bridges to get done because I kept staying, I was on top of them as a councilman to make sure that these bridges was done. And not only that, I published in my newsletter when the bridges will be complete because we negotiated each and every one of them. The reason the Fulton Avenue Bridge is the last one is because it's a historical bridge. So it had to be restored, okay? Which that bridge, I was happy to be in Albany with Senator Ruth Hassel Thompson. I call her Senator Ruth because she'll always be my senator. Where now that bridge is going to be named the Ruth Hassel Thompson Bridge, along with Mount Vernon East train station that will be the Ruth Hassel Thompson train station. So I was there for that as well. So it's being done now. They're working on it. But, you know, the only thing the mayor I can contribute to bridges is the one that she broke on 3rd Avenue. And I'll tell you how that was a problem. Because the building department, the mayor, okay, and them allowed a building to be built right over the structure and helped to create the weight, okay, capacity to start to crumble that bottom of the bridge. You put a building and allowed them to do a building on there without doing the proper engineering, understanding what the situation is, okay, and you caused a major problem, okay? That is what I contribute to her. And the thing about it is, I have a picture. And you know what? I'm going to publish it. I'll send it to you. It's so It's so ironic, right? You look at the picture in front of the building and it says weight capacity 3,000 pounds.
Right there.
So, okay, well, 3,000 pounds, a building. I'm sure that building weighs more than 3,000 pounds. How could you miss that? The words is in front of you. It has been posted, and then you allow them to do this. And then when you run into the problem, you blame it on everybody in the past. It's been crumbling, it's been this. It's always an excuse. I've never heard her take responsibility for anything. And when somebody doesn't take responsibility for anything, that's a big problem. As a company owner, okay, and a businessman, when my guys mess up, it's not my guys messed up, I messed up. My clients, I don't go to my clients and tell them, oh, it wasn't me, it was one of my guys. No, it is my responsibility. Everything that good happens is my responsibility. Everything that bad happens is my responsibility as well. And I don't care what you say. You can do 100 things right. And it's always going to be the one thing that you did wrong that gets the airtime. But I'm okay with that because I know what I've done, and I know that I've done it to the best of my ability, and I know that I've done the job right.
Well, guys, we're about to conclude this interview, but before we do so, I want to make it clear to all of you that we at Yonkers Voice do not endorse or oppose any candidate. We are focused on giving you the information so you can make a decision on who should you vote for. It's totally up to you. That is your decision. We just want to keep you informed. Now, Mayor, you're going to do the closure for us. Maybe tell our people that are watching, people of Mt Vernon that will be watching, why you should. You already said it, but to finalize the interview, why you are counting on their vote.
Well, I want everybody to come out and vote. And it doesn't matter who you vote for. I'm going to say that first. As long as you vote, because it's important to be involved with what's going on in our community. We can't just continue to complain about things and not be involved, okay? It is up to you, the people of Mt Vernon, to decide how and which way our city is going to move, okay? I'm only one vote, you know, some of you are only one, but when we have many, then you can get movement, okay? The city has been moving in the wrong direction for a long time. I know what they say, Mt Vernon forward, but you could charge forward like General Custard, but you're going in the wrong way, okay? What we need to do is move in the right way. We need to measure twice and cut once. We need to do it right, cut the waste, the fat, the spending. We need to rein it in, and also we need to eliminate these taxes that is overburdening on the people of Mt Vernon. We also need to make sure that we increase our public safety, which I continuously speak about, because no one is going to invest, no one is going to come in, no one is going to move into a city that is unsafe. And that includes giving the police a contract, which I will do. And I say I know how to do it. And before I left office, I sat with the police officers. I sat with their union, I sat with the firefighters union, I sat with DPW as well in my office. And I offered them a contract of 5 years and how to do it and how to pay for it. I don't understand what happened because they turned it down. They said the prior administration would take care of it, which I knew that they wouldn't, okay? And here we are today, and we're falling further and further into the problems. We need to turn it around before it's too late. Continuity is not the answer, because bad continuity only makes things worse, okay? When you're in a ball game and you see the other team starting to score, it's time to put in a relief pitcher or change the pitcher. Just because that's a good pitcher or just because you want to keep continuity, you don't keep them in the game. It's time to change it. Mt Vernon has been struggling for a long time, and the problem with many things is we've been going wrong for so long that many of us think it's right, and it's not. These things need to change. Vote for the man that's going there to do a job, not get a job, because I already have one. But what I need to do is to turn our city around. It's important for our seniors, our children, and everyone else that lives here, because we deserve better.
Coming this Wednesday, the former mayor, Richard Thomas, should be on Yonkers Voice. We have also invited the current mayor, Sharon Patterson. She has not responded yet, but all candidates are welcome to come in our platform so she can speak to the people of their community, municipalities, and tell them why they should vote for them. Yonkers Voice does not endorse or oppose, we inform. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.